Yeah, similar to that, but different noise.
Brought to you by some guys on the internet.
This is Getting Tabled.
With your hosts Jason the Bruce,
You guy!
George the Yang,
I hope you're all entertained by my inaptitude.
Jason aka Major Socks.
We've been doing this and talking about various stuff. One of the stuff.
Now sit back, relax, and get tabled.
Hello, future people, and welcome to episode 160 of Getting Tabled with your host who decided to go with normal lighting like he's in a 1960s sitcom, The Bruce.
1960s sitcom. That's a bit of a random one. Okay, sure.
Well, there's lights turned on.
Sure. Yes, somebody didn't plug their lights in to charge them before recording this morning. I'm not going to say who it was, but his name might be similar to mine, and he might have a very similar facial expression to mine.
I'm blaming the bird.
Yeah, it's definitely the bird. It's definitely the bird's fault. And we also have the only reason anybody's here. Nobody cares about me and George.
That's right.
It's all about socks.
Yep, it's all about me, folks. As George is getting his drink, what shame on you. As you can see, I don't have my tables up. I had family in town, and my tables had to come down. So
the important question everybody wants to know, Socks, is how was it returning to real life after lording it over everybody on an 8-star hotel for the weekend?
I didn't want to come back, to be honest.
See, that's how
nice.
little he cares about us, folks. See what we work with.
That's true. No, yeah, so I'm sorry for not being here 2 weeks ago, folks.
No,
yep,
he's not sorry.
Sailing away. I was sailing away in the sunset on a Caribbean cruise with the wife. It was amazing. But I am happy to be back. So
Lies.
It's good to be back.
Because he got seasick because, that's why he's in the Air Force and not the Navy.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, George.
Burn.
Bruce, do we even need to go on with and introduce George? Because he's just being a pain right now.
I mean, I think what we need to acknowledge right here, George...
I'm being normal.
What we need to acknowledge here is the reason they came back is because Colleen was just tired of putting up with him for so long. She needed a break.
Probably, she might have need.
Yes, we also have George. George is here.
Hi.
One day we're going to give you a really nice introduction and not just a dismissive one like that, and you're not going to know how to handle it.
I'll know how to handle it.
Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent or important events.
And we're starting with weird games because, well, the reveals for Malifaux continue to line out, continue to swing out. So this actually, I think this was the day after we last recorded, George. It might have been a couple of days. I don't remember exactly. But we have a preview of the new Infamous box. So this is an existing crew, but they're redoing them for the new edition with some new sculpts. I love the Iron Skeeters. They are much nicer looking than the old ones, though those chains are going to be a nightmare. That's the little bug things, just for the record. I quite like our lizard, our lizard fisherman. He's quite cool. He kind of feels very Lovecraftian in nature, which I don't think is accidental. I
Those
quite
would be
like
ropes,
it.
Bruce.
Sorry?
Those are ropes, not chains.
Are they? Oh, they are too. Never mind.
They are right. Yeah, those are grappling hooks.
The thing I quite like about Malifaux is, like, when you have placeholder art, the models tend to lean towards it very closely. You don't tend to get, like, a pose like this, but then the model comes out like that. It tends to be... It does, however, mean that a lot of their models are very difficult to build at times, which I would actually argue is part of their charm, honestly.
So, tell me I'm wrong.
Okay,
the
you're
dude
wrong.
on the left... Okay.
Yes?
George is always
The
wrong.
dude on the left?
The dude
You told me to tell you that you were wrong.
Well, you said I was wrong, so I stopped talking. Dude on the left, with his little flamethrower and crazy hair and stuff like that. It's completely unintentional, but I feel like that's a subtle shout out to Michael Cthulhu.
I could see that. Actually,
Right? Like,
yeah,
look
I
at
could
that.
see that a lot.
He's got the goggles.
Yeah.
Well, he's got the goggles, just, random equipment, like, he does wear PPE, but it's not what you buy, it's what he's made, so it's like, it totally has the same feel as this guy. If you don't know who this is, you should check him out. He makes some rather large, ridiculous swords.
Shirtless most of the time. The huge thing about this, at least to me, and I know this isn't going to, neither of you are going to recognize this because you've never played Malifaux and you don't know the lore. He seems to have changed factions because this used to be a Bayou model and he now has, these logos on the side are not Bayou anymore. He's completely flipped. So Captain Zip is no longer with the rest of the Bayou. He appears to be on his own now. Now, that's going to be interesting to see how that happens, I guess.
He looks kind of like the Rocketeer with green skin.
Yeah, yep. When I painted up my old one, I painted him up to look like Marvin the Martian, complete with a little thing underneath him that said boom.
So good.
Yeah. We also have the reveal of the new 2-player starter set. I'm just going to say this out first and foremost. There's good and bad with this. The good is, at least in theory, this looks like it's going to be incredible value. Like, you have two completely... This isn't some... Like, previous boxes have kind of been like, there's 4 models for this side and 4 models for that side. So you get, like... You're trying to have a game, but it's not really a game. This is 2 full-on crews for both sides. And the models, at least in theory, look really nice. The ampersand ones are all little robotic ones. And the banished are gorgeous. I quite like the fungal banished look that they're going with here. I wouldn't mind owning these.
Yeah, I was going to say, those look like a very, ripped up, muscly version of the zombies from Last of Us.
Yeah, actually, I could see that. Yep. The bad side of this, at least from my perspective, and I know that people don't like, at least in the Malifaux community, when I kind of point this out, there's a lot of that community that doesn't tend to like it. This is all PVC models, and that is not a good thing. That's a bad thing. It's pre-assembled, and the pre-assembled PVC models are really good for beginners, but they are terrible. The sculpts are great, but PVC miniatures are extremely difficult to work with. They make CO cast look easy to work with. I'm not a fan of... I will never buy a pre-assembled model kit from that's in PVC ever again after the qualities that I've had with the previous ones. They're extremely difficult to work with. I'm not a fan. So that's a real shame, because I 100% would have bought this for the banished, but I'm not spending money on that. So, like I said, good and bad. Like I said, there's a lot of people that disagree with me on that. I tend to be in the minority on this subject. But look, it's really good for beginners. 2-player starter set should be for beginners anyway, but I would have preferred that it was hard plastic like everything else. There's an entire section of their game that they release with starter kits and starter sets and stuff that's all pre-assembled. And I really wish that they'd stopped using PVC and go back and make everything of the same quality. Because the quality of their hard plastics is second to none, potentially. With the exception of, like I said, they tend to be quite more difficult to build, but that's also part of their charm. It's going to come down to what this costs, but in theory, this should be pretty good value for money.
I wish you could get a starter set where it's the faction you want and the core book and all that stuff, and you weren't forced to split a box with someone or get a faction you don't want. I just get the banished,
fair,
get the book, get what you need to go find someone else to play with.
the previous one that we looked at, the infamous box, is a starter set for that crew, but it doesn't come with your fate deck and the rulebook or anything like that.
That's what I'm saying.
That is how most people will buy into the game. Is buying the crew that you want and then just getting your fate. Like, the fate decks aren't expensive. It's just a deck of cards. Actually, in theory, you can play with a regular deck of cards. I don't recommend it. It's a pain, but you can do it. Then you have to have this chart where it tells you what the hearts represent and I can never remember what they are. So you can certainly buy in the other way. It's not a convenient all-in-one box. It's one of the things I like about the way that Wayland does things for Wild West Exodus or Armored Clash. You can buy just the starter set, but then you also have the version of the starter set that it comes with the rules and gubbins.
Rules and dice and
Yep. It's just, it doesn't actually create new stuff for them to send out if it's just a box that has the rules and stuff in it, but it just makes it a convenient thing that you can send to somebody. Last but not least, at least for Weird this week this fortnight is concerned, we have a new piece of artwork for Karai, who is lovely and pretty and insanely creepy with her giant scissors.
I was going to say, except for the scary scissors that she's holding in her hands.
That just happened to have been sitting in red ink. It's definitely red ink. It's definitely not blood. I don't know.
Well, and that are about the size of her arm. The scissor part is about the size of her arm too. So I mean,
yeah. A Lady of Vengeance. There's definitely no red flags about that. Definitely not at all.
Nope.
Yeah. So, 4th edition is coming along. I'm still not doing playtesting for this. I made the decision fairly early on, for reasons that I covered on a previous episode, that I'm not participating in the playtesting for 4th edition. I'm just going to wait for the edition to come out. For those that missed it, my reasoning was a lot of the decisions on what to remove and what to change pretty much impacted stuff that I'd purchased very recently and hadn't had a chance to use. So keeping that in mind, I've went, okay, I'm not buying and organising anything until I know what's happening. Because it that kind of hit me in the wallet where I couldn't afford it. But it is going to force me to change crews, which is something I've been wanting to do for a while. So, ignoring my preference against PVC models, of the 3 crews that we've seen, just purely aesthetically, do you guys have preferences for one of them? I suspect that George is probably on the banished.
I think the infamous.
You like the infamous?
Yeah. There's just something about their aesthetic where, it's like the bugs are mechanical with little goblinoids running with their goblin hooks, the creepy fish guy, goblin rocketeer, and...
Yep. You're going to like this. They're gremlins. Not goblins. Which I
Same
like.
difference.
I like. Yeah, it's 100% same difference, but gremlins are cool. Socks, or do you not really have a huge one way or the other?
I kind of like the banished guys.
You like the banished guys?
I really like the 3 guys on the far right of that box set.
Yeah, that's it for me as well. It's the banished for me. I really like the look of that set. It's one of the reasons why I find it so frustrating, because I probably would have bought this box set, but obviously now I won't.
Yeah.
But moving on, we have an insanely pretty looking box coming from GCT Studios. So this is the new themed box for Bushido. And
I was going to say creepy, but...
Yeah. This is the new box set for their samurai guys, pretty much. It's like creepy. Creepy is the only word here.
Yeah, if you look at some of the conceptual art, they're just covered in bloody handprints. I want to see someone that can paint, 28 mil bloody handprints, and then you got the guy with the yoke carrying the stuff with just blood dripping out of the good God.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the lore is behind these guys, but to me, it's very much this is a darker side of the samurai. It's the prefecture of Ryu, just for those that are wondering. But
so real quick, if you want to scroll to the pictures, you've got the monk with the big flag, and then he's got the helmet and the two swords that he's carrying behind him.
Yeah, all the armor.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they're trying to find like a rifle successor type thing.
ooh, yeah, that's fair.
Because if you look at all their gear, they're red and white, covered in blood. This stuff is like like an ultramarine blue, like the fancy expensive blue, and
Yeah,
it's just sitting there, like not being used. Like there's got to be some sort of plot twist or backstory with that.
interestingly, on the model, it's been painted red like everything else,
Red. Yeah.
Yeah.
which you can
It is
only
interesting
just see
how-
in the background. But
I literally just noticed that because, when you get over to that artwork, it really stands out, that blue.
yeah,
I would have
it
liked to
really
have seen the
does.
model painted with the blue instead of the red. It would have made it stand out a little bit more.
Well,
Yep.
there's blood involved, socks, and last time I checked, blood is red, so therefore they have to.
Okay,
go with
fine,
red.
you're right, George, in that aspect, but
Maybe they have blue blood. It's a fantasy world. Why not?
That means
I
they
really
would have
like
to have. What color of what metal oxidizes blue? Magnesium? No, magnesium doesn't.
I don't remember. While George looks that up, I'm going to move on to something that Socks really wants to talk about. We have a heavy rail coming for Armored Clash. It's like the
Copper.
previous one, but it's heavy. Copper?
yes.
What did you say, George?
That's what copper.
copper.
That's
Yeah.
that's what Google said. I would think that was more of a green, but whatever.
So
Anyway,
this
socks.
is very similar to the previous rail, except it's a heavy version. So it's
Yeah, so
more
this
armor.
is... Yep, so we got the Durango heavy rail set coming out for the Union for Armored Clash. A lot of people were disappointed that it's not the next new faction that's coming out, but I understand that they're wanting to do this as well for the Union so that they can get different variety to play with their army. Because the first rail set is all about troop transport, whereas this one allows you to transport your tanks and artillery pieces onto the battlefield a lot faster. So kind of a cool concept that you can transport your tanks around. So you can use this as another commander, I believe. I'll have to check the rules on that one. So cool looking little concept that they have here. Speaking of Armor Clash, I ordered my Imperium, and hopefully they'll be shipped out here in a couple weeks from Valhalla Hobby. So
Yeah, no, I've made the decision that you're not allowed to have them. You're going to have to wait. So you'll have to cancel
have
that
to wait?
pre-order. No, actually, no, you can keep the pre-order, but you're never allowed to open it. It must sit on the shelf and never be touched.
Aw, okay.
That's what it's punishment for you going away and being lazy.
So yeah, cool little models. We've seen some of the models before. The little wagons, they're just a little bit different sculpts, but then they have the big, huge flat bed cars, along with some tanks and some cavalry bikes and
I
some
quite like them actually.
artillery pieces. I do too.
The actual flatbeds clearly have a pivot in the middle of them, or at least it's sculpted to have them.
Yes.
I'm interested to see if they actually pivot on that or not, because it doesn't look like they do.
I don't think it does, but it definitely looks like it would if it was.
I mean, it doesn't.
But I do know the pivots on the actual joints between the cards. You can put magnets on them, so it can pivot that way
Nice.
at the joints. But the actual middle of that flatbed, probably not. Would be my guess.
Do you know what I find hilariously just like really? The tanks and the little, I'm guessing, bikes have a traditional steam engine cattle pusher,
Mm-hmm.
but the train doesn't.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, Oh, that's a good point. I didn't actually think of that. It doesn't either. I mean, it kind of
Right.
has one, but it's
It
not.
kind of does.
It has a cattle pusher, yes, but it's not what you would expect on a steam engine.
Yeah.
The little motorcycles, which the little motorcycles, that's a cattle pusher you see on a steam engine.
A normal chain. Yep. Totally
Yeah.
agree.
That's actually really well spotted. I hadn't thought of that. We also
And
have,
along with
and this one's, I really like that they're doing this. It adds a lot of flavour. We have different, so these are the Command and Conquest decks, same as in their other games, but they're doing them specifically for the factions.
Yep.
I really like
So,
that they're doing this.
I have their generic ones, but like Bruce said, they're sending out one for every 5 factions that are out right now, and I'm guessing as the other ones come along, they'll just get introduced as well, because it's just going to be a simple matter of putting that faction symbol on the back of the card, and you can release it along with the starter sets that are coming out with the new faction.
I would imagine there'd have to be some differences in the cards, right? Unless it's just aesthetic.
It's just the aesthetics.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't actually add anything flavour-wise to the rules at all. It's just a different coat of paint. That's fine. Means it doesn't. It means it won't create any balance issues, I suppose.
Yeah.
I got excited because I was thinking that like maybe there was like small tweaks and like some like we used to have with the old drop fleet ones.
Yeah. But with Dystopian Wars 2nd edition coming out, I could see them doing this for sure with Dystopian Wars for their Victory and Valor cards when they come out as well, if they're doing it with Armor Clash.
Yeah. I mean, it's more reason for people to buy them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've got my generic one, but now I want to have one for every army that I own. It's just... It's an easy win, I suppose. Plus, they're not that expensive.
No.
$13.
Yeah.
Yep.
Coming up next, we have some rather shocking news, actually. Well, I don't know. Like, I found this really shocking when I first read it. But in hindsight, I don't know if it really is as shocking as I thought it was. So, CMON are selling some of their IP, but it's their IP that they are done with. Like, there's...
Yeah, so, and I was kind of in the same boat, too, because, there's all the talk of, like, they're suspending all crowdfurnding until the terrorists are figured out.
Which is clearly what this has been responded to. Like, that is why they're doing this.
They're currently focusing on their huge backlog, which, I mean, it is a huge backlog.
Yeah.
Of stuff they're producing, both pre-orders and crowdfundings. And the other thing, too, is, they haven't done anything with these. The only one that's like, I don't know about the last 3, but Ankh Gods of Egypt, that's a COVID Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
And they haven't done anything with it since. Rising Sun, that's even older, and they haven't done anything with it. We've had, 4 different versions of Zombicide, 2 different releases of Cthulhu now, since,
These ones have been touched.
Yeah, so to get rid of them, it's like, it really doesn't shock me considering that, they are projecting a loss. They're suspending, new manufacturing, and they're just trying to get what they've got finished done. The other thing I mentioned in the chat too, is, they're still working Super Fantasy Brawl, which, that's something they acquired from Mythic. Then they've got the 2 games, Hell and starts with an A, that was Kickstarted by Mythic, and Mythic unloaded them and never completed the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
CMON's still working on those in the background in theory too, so, it's not that, I think the nature of what's happened is kind of put their backs against the wall a little bit. I'm not worried yet. But I think they're making intelligent choices before it's too late. Unlike what in the case with Mythic.
See, realistically, I mean, what they've done is they've passed this on to a company that essentially essentially is an expert in, this is just a game that exists, we will continue to refresh it and redo it. Like, that is what Tabletop Tycoon does. They're not exactly known for original properties. They're known for reissues and remasters and that sort of stuff. So, whilst, yes, CMON could have this on their library and continue to sell it at retail, maybe it hasn't been selling at retail as much, and that tends to be a case for a lot of Kickstarter's things, with the exception of Zombicide and a few exceptions. Because most people that want it buy it during the Kickstarter. But let's say if there's less that they're going to make through that, if they can make money by passing it on, CMON as a company that essentially relies on a constant influx of new money from Kickstarter. It's one of the reasons why I find it frustrating, because maybe that should change. And like they're passing on this stuff for flowing cash, I suppose. It makes sense.
Yeah. Like I said, to those who are, still burned and sour on Mythic, we're not there yet. We're absolutely not there yet.
No. So
CMON
I completely
just announced
understand why people are making that assumption.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, it's a great assumption to make because, Mythic did the same thing, and then within a year, Mythic's like, well, you're screwed. We mismanaged your money. You don't get a damn thing.
Yeah.
As I've said, CMON has not delivered. And
CMON have a history, Mythic had a history, but it was the wrong history.
Yeah, and so, I think they're just, cleaning house a little bit, looking at, hindsight, like, I wish I known about, Kickstarter games a lot sooner, because I would have loved to get my hands on Rising Sun.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, you will be able to again now. You just have to wait for them to redo it.
Yeah, so... But I don't think we're at the point of worrying. I was just one of the pre-orders. It's a straight up board game, but it comes with a little add-on for Cthulhu Death May Die of 5 special investigators. They've just greenlit mass production on that, and said U.S. buyers, you may have to pay an additional amount in a tariff.
Well, that's out of their control anyway. They've got no choice in the matter.
Well. But here's the thing, though: it wasn't on crowdfunding. It was specifically done as a pre-order.
Yeah, but it's still not something that they can control. It's not their choice whether you get charged a tariff or not.
Okay, but here's what I'm saying though: is it's a pre-order. Like, I'm going to order this, I'm getting this. Crowdfunding is completely different, and so the pricing on that is susceptible to the shipping and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Pre-orders are not. Pre-orders are, I've purchased this, I'm waiting for my copy. So that's the gray area on that. But as I was, this is the positive of CMON has just proved everything, greenlit mass production, it's still happening. Like, they are still doing stuff, they're still making stuff, and they're still shipping. So,
and that is the important part of the story.
So it's not time to worry yet.
I've always heard good things about Blood Rage. I have not played Blood Rage, but it's going to be interesting to see, because that was at retail at some point. I remember that being on shelves.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. I don't know about I don't think Unk was ever on store shelves. I could be wrong. Rising Sun was, I think.
Unk was on store shelves.
Okay. Looks like all of these were then.
Yeah, I just like, it's a great game. Like, I've got it. I've got the entire Kickstarter for it. I just, compared to other games out there, it doesn't have the social traction like some games do.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, is probably why they're offloading it, because, it's not making them the money they want, so.
Yep. Maybe all it needs is a new coat of paint, and then it'll be good. I don't know. We'll see. In other huge news, and I think this is much bigger news than some people are thinking it is.
Oh, God, this is like massive
This is
news.
massive, yeah. Starcraft is getting a tabletop miniatures game. Of all of the Blizzard games that they could do, this is probably the one that makes the most sense as a tabletop miniatures game. I mean, you could make the same argument for WoW because it did start as an RTS. real-time strategies lean to tabletop miniatures for very obvious reasons.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, they could have easily done Warcraft, the predecessor to World of,
I think
which
the
is
problem
it's
with
the same
Warcraft
thing.
is everybody associates it with roleplay now. Very few people
Yeah.
think about the original games.
Yeah,
That's true.
well, not just that, but Fantasy Warhammer was almost could be thought of as the original Warcraft because of the orcs, you got the humans. So there's kind of already a game of like that out there, but with Starcraft, it's unique.
Well, so here's my why they probably went with Starcraft instead of Warcraft is you have two factions in Warcraft. You have the Horde, you have the Alliance. That's it.
Yeah.
And then you have all the things under it. I mean, you've got your elves and dwarves under the Alliance, whatever. They're not their own standalone factions. Starcraft was unique in the fact of it was three factions to pick from: the Zerg, Terran, and the
Protoss.
elves. Protoss,
I got it.
yes.
Protoss, yep.
Bruce beat you to it. So one that gives you the triad of this could do better against this, but this will do better against this. Circle of light. Well, it's like rock paper scissors, I guess, essentially.
Yeah.
And I as much as I want to see it as a tabletop miniatures game, I'd also want to see it like what TT Combat's done. Is I'd like to see a board game version of it to be more accessible to people.
Yeah, I mean,
but then
tabletop miniatures game could be anything really, but
yeah,
I'm assuming it's going to lean into wargaming, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it is.
Yeah, but I would love to see it, evolved into a 4x4, probably actually a 3x3, 10 mil scale.
A smaller scale would make sense for this.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of want to see all of the detail and everything in the sculpts, but I can see the argument for going the other way. I mean, it is the sort of world where you want to have a large army, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
for those that don't know StarCraft very well, StarCraft is also the RTS game that was heavily competitive. And I mean, it was a competition level game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know so much about now, but it was huge for a long time, specifically number 2.
Yeah, well, so number 1 was it hung around for years. Its popularity lasted way longer than any video game of that era should have.
Yep.
And there was just such a push and a want for StarCraft 2 that it came a lot faster than people expected. Not fast enough, according to some, though. And when it showed up, it was. I'm not much of a RTS, video game guy. I don't have the hand dexterity and the mental speed like some of these people do. I don't have that. But I still enjoyed that game, and when StarCraft 2 came out, I gave a good effort of trying to get really good at it, and I was barely mediocre, but I still really enjoyed the game.
I've never played number 2, but I did used to love number 1.
Yeah. Okay, Firebats. Which was your which was your favorite color phrase that a unit would say?
Oh, I don't even remember any of the StarCraft ones. I remember the Warcraft ones.
So my favorite one was the
stop clicking me, stop poking me, or whatever it was. It was always my favorite one.
The Firebats for the Terran forces. That was left-handed.
Do you have any history with this game? Did you play it at all?
A little bit, not a whole lot. I played Command and Conquer primarily, that RTS.
Age of Empires, Dawn of War.
Age of Empires, yep.
There was another one I'm forgetting about. Yeah, there's the big one for me is one is one that I can't think of right now, but it's a completely different one again. Anyway, it's very early days for this, obviously. But I mean, there is tease here of what the models could look like, but it is a very simple image. Like we're just going to have to wait and see for this.
Well, to be fair though, too, like those 3 models they're showing, those are like the heroes of the game. So
Yeah.
like,
In all 3 of them, I would say is a very positive influence. Like they've done really well with those so far. Moving on. There's a few things from Warlord we could talk about, but for the moment we're going to concentrate on Conflict 47, which is a game that's been around for a while. It certainly has an audience out there. This is the first I've heard from it for a little while. So this is a weird World War II game. I mean, you've got a spider tank here. That should be all of the weird that you need to know for this. And we're getting some new Staltruppen, heavy infantry, and Volkerspine for it's not a spider tank. It's a 6-legged tank. My mistake. So it's an
bug
insect
tank.
Yeah. I really like the tank in particular. Like that really is really nice. We've also got some fire drop troopers to go up against your Axis, and a lovely linebacker jump walker. I love the fact that they have the number on the side because I kind of want this to be even more gridiron somehow. I know that that's not entirely what they're... It's called a linebacker. Come on, if you're going to do that, at least make it look like it's wearing a helmet or something. Or big shoulder pads. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking the game, the name just a little bit.
I think so, because the numbers actually the Allies would number all of their tanks.
I know, but I thought it says
easy
linebacker, so my mind decided to take it too far.
Football.
Yeah. I mean, also the German has numbers on their tank too, so it's completely irrelevant. I really like what they're doing here, honestly. I think the models look great. Like, even just the basic infantry.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. Who knows the most famous football player to wear number 22?
Not me. I'm not an NFL person.
I want to say... I think I might know who it is.
Say it.
I'm trying to think of his name, though. I can't think of it, though. I can think of his face. What is it, George?
What position did he play?
Oh, Emmitt Smith.
There you go, Emmitt Smith.
As soon as you said the position, I was like, yep, I know it now. Yep, because I went right to running back. So...
as far as mechs go, to me it looks fairly realistic.
Yeah,
I think that's fair. In the realm of like, because look at the hip to reverse knee joint. It's got multiple connections for movement, not it's a hinged joint. Like, get out of here with that. That ain't gonna work. That's actually designed to there's a hydraulic piston. It opens and closes, which causes articulation.
Yep.
Like, well done.
Also, I want to say the troopers that we looked at, right? Maybe the most unique backpacks I've ever seen for a jump troop.
The Fireflies?
Yeah. Like that, they look phenomenal. Because everybody else kind of it's like a rocket pack, or it's like a rip-off of a Space Marine pack, right? This genuinely looks different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you've got one that's pointed at like a 45 and 2 pointing straight back, so it's like, if you jump, it'll give you an extra little boost, and the other two will push you forward. Like, it's got little wings to, actually fly. Like,
yeah.
And it feels like it's like retro Iron Man sort of, but it's designed specifically as a jump, not I will fly everywhere.
Yeah. Like, no, that looks more thought out than it has any right to be, actually.
Yeah.
Like conceptually looking at that, like, no, I mean that could work.
And of course, you've got a very similar thing on the Walker, but it's all pointing downwards because getting that thing off the ground is going to be nigh on impossible anyway.
Yep.
So it's all about getting it up and then a little bit going forward. Because once it's up, moving it is less difficult, I suppose.
Well, the reality of it too is, some of these walkers, as they're, portrayed with their stats and everything, in order for them to walk, they would have to slowly conduct their battle on reinforced concrete roads,
Yep.
not dirt, or otherwise they'd sink in. So,
Yeah, as much as people hate being reminded of it, mechs are really cool, but they don't make any sense. Not real world. They're still really cool. It's okay. They are really cool, but mechs are really dumb as a concept in the real world.
Yep.
We can't show it on screen, but Sox, did you want to talk about the Black Sea stuff very briefly?
Yeah, so Black Seas has released Warlord through their game. Black Seas has released stern and bow figureheads for a wide range of named ships for all their factions in reality. Because normally how you identify your ships on the board is by little flag tokens, and you can put little flags on the strings of the ships themselves, and so that's one way to identify them when they're on the board. But now that you have the ability to have more named ships in the game, you can identify them a little bit easier that way as well. Because what I've done with mine is I've taken whatever name is on the stern plate and just with decals itself, put that on the ship card, so and I can reference it that way as well.
Yeah,
I've done that with Victory at Sea as well with my World War II naval game. So I think it's cool that they're releasing just the stern and bow figurehead. You can buy the models together with the stern and bow figureheads as one whole group, or you can just buy them separately. So if you have models already that you haven't put together, but you want to put those stern and bow figureheads, you can buy those separately instead of having to buy all new models again as well. So we'll try and get some. The link wasn't working for Bruce tonight, so maybe next time we'll just try and show some pictures next time. But I thought it was very cool. I was coming by.
It's because his Australian internet is censoring the game.
I don't know what's going on. I'm having the same issue. I'm having similar issues with a couple of websites at the moment. Like even now, I tried loading it. For a half a second, it almost looked like it was going to load, and then it just disappeared and says it doesn't exist again. I think it was trying to take a
Censorship.
I have no idea.
It's DNS. It's always DNS.
All right. Coming
Anyways,
up next.
Conquest.
Bruce, say the thing you always say, Bruce.
This is
You
really
was
pretty.
played in the intro. No.
Oh, yokai!
You said it?
Yes. Yokai!
Yeah, that one.
Yeah. Why? Because that's what this is called. It's a Dai Yokai. Now, this is a dual kit. We'll show what the other one looks like in a minute. This is a giant samurai. I know it just looks like a normal samurai, but if you scroll through, you will find a picture that says that this is over 31 centimeters tall. So this is just over a foot tall. This thing is giant, and it's awesome. It's incredible, and I love it, and I want it. I really
It's an
like
evil
this.
demon.
It's amazing. The other version that you can build is the Genya no Yokai, and it's even more demony. It's just two extremes of the same kit, I suppose. It's really nice. I really like what they're doing here.
Just because of the scale, with it being 30 centimeters, the detail is...
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Saying it is nice.
This is the sort of thing that you could spend a lot of time painting and still not be finished. Like these models are a painter's dream, right? Like if you want to spend time on a centerpiece model, this is a centerpiece model.
Yeah, what's the guy that I always love his stuff because his OSL is just like so beyond on point. I would love to see him do something crazy with one of these.
Is it the L Ministries?
Elements, yeah. The one that uses Nikola Tesla's a profile photo.
Yeah. The guy's evil. Mainly because of his skill. Like, pure evil. I think they're really hitting this out of the park. Like, this is... Parabellum release good stuff all the time, right? But every so often they come out with a model. It's like, oh, that's right, you're this company. It's so pretty. I really like this.
And then lastly on the list, some Nightmare Fuel.
Oh, yeah. We got something new for the Spires as well, which is, I mean, it's a giant Pteranodon. It's the Tyrannophon. This is not for the orcs, though. It's a dinosaur-esque looking... it's kind of like a twisted...
It's a trilobite. It's a flying trilobite.
Yeah, that's actually a really apt description, actually, yes. I mean, its namesake is like what we were looking at recently from them, but this is just... Oh, this is good. Not 100% sure on the size of this one, though.
Yeah, it looks like...
It looks like it must be pretty big.
Let's see, scale 38 millimeter. It's a 30 by 30 by 6 centimeter box, 300 grams.
I'm imagining that it's going to be similar to the Pteranodon that we were looking at size-wise.
Probably.
Yeah. It's a good bit.
They're just... Everything they are doing is phenomenal. It's just so good.
Well, again, I think that's, you know, to the advantage of when they designed their game, they designed it on a 38 mil scale, which, you know, that gives them a lot more room to work with on, you know, scale and detail.
Yeah.
You know, like getting the detail on something that's a 38 mil scale is so much easier than, you know, a 28 mil scale.
To give an idea of, like, that's the size of the base.
Yeah.
So that gives you a bit of an idea of the size of the creature. It is going to be quite sizable. You're looking at at that sort of scale, I think. Wingspan-wise, at least, anyway.
Trim, glue, prime, paint.
What have you been up to, George? You were building something earlier.
I was using some sticky tack to attach naked dwarves to the little caps for my painting handles, so I can start painting on them.
Nice.
No, they don't have any paint on them yet. So,
shameful.
I am going to do a double slap chop on them.
Mm-hmm.
As far as for that, just
get it done
with the speed. Well, at doing that with the speed paints from Army Painter, it's just too easy to get really good results.
Yeah.
Like, it's the stuff I've done on some of my Cthulhu stuff, like, I can't replicate that with blending at all. But dry brush it, throw some speed chop, dry brush it again, speed paint again, and it's like... I don't have that skill, but it allows me to look like I do, so...
Mm-hmm.
And I've only got, like, you know, way too many of those little guys to go through. So I've only got 20 of them mounted up right now, and I think I've got another 10, 20, 30, 50 more, not counting heroes, and then I need at least another box of 5 and a couple more heroes, and I will quite literally have just about everything I could have for a Fire Slayer army, and have well over 2,000 points.
Nice.
And that includes the Gotrek son of Gurney that I have.
What about yourself, Socks? What are you doing when you're not gallivanting around on boats and drinking caffeine? At least I'm pretty sure that was caffeine.
Lesson plurt. Now that I'm learning how to teach captains in the Air Force, that's what I've been doing all week. Preparing lessons. Because I have to... Yeah, I have to get ready for this curriculum.
Worst.
Yep. So, well, not just that, but it's a brand new curriculum. We're changing the captain's course completely, and so it's all new stuff that not even the returning instructors have any knowledge about. So that's what I've been doing.
Wait. So field grade officers teach
captains?
junior grade. junior grade officers in the Air Force?
Yes, we do.
You know what they do in the Marine Corps? Those are called gunnies.
Yeah, we tend to take care of our officers a little bit better than your Marine Corps does.
Oh, come on! A gunny will put the fear of God in a lieutenant, and that lieutenant will never fuck up again for the rest of his career, and he will be a great officer.
No,
Great,
I agree.
now I get to find that and censor it, George. Thank you very much.
No, so you have your own captain's course. You have your own captain's course in the Marine Corps. We have our own, and so does the Army. And so it's taught by senior officers so that we can help them out a little bit more, mentor them how those great officers are going to be like. But however, I am looking at finally getting into my Hell Caesar stuff. I've primed some stuff already, so I want to start working on my Roman army, just so I can start chipping them away. Because I still have half a box that I still need to build, and it's looking daunting every time I look at it. But yeah, I want to go and play it, but I don't want to play with half glued on sprues.
That's fair. Well, I now know what the introduction for Socks is going to be next time. There's a universal rule of teaching that I'll be able to use against him next time. George, I don't know how universal this is, but I wonder if you know what the end of this sentence is. Those that can't do...
Teach.
Thanks, Bruce.
You're welcome.
That's why we have gunnies teach our officers, because there isn't anything a gunny can't do. Socks, tell me I'm wrong.
It's a stupid rule of teaching anyway.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I seem to have... Well, most of my last fortnight has been me just dead to rights. I was recovering from flu, which was horrible. But I did get some stuff done. I have finally...
Wait.
Done this.
Was this the same man flu you made fun of me for? Jackass.
No, I was actually sick, not lazy.
No, that looks good.
I'm really happy with it. Like the skin color on camera, the skin color of the creature and the crew looks a lot closer than it really is. They are different shades, but it is they are closer together than I wanted them to be initially. So I need to finish highlighting it up, and that'll help differentiate a little bit. I have also built a model. I seem to have a thing lately of pulling out models that I bought either a year or 2 years or longer ago and getting them done. I bought this the weekend that I was first playtesting Entropy City at a giant event. So I've had this for pretty much 2 years to the day. This is for a game called Maximilian 1934. So it's meant to be like a 1920s, 1930s car. Or truck.
I think that'll be great for Entropy City.
Well, it's not for Entropy City.
I know it's not, but I think it would be
now
great
that you've said
for
it, now that you've said it, I kind of like that idea.
Have you not heard of Can-Am? I mean,
it's not a bad shout. It's a racing game essentially, and depending on the faster you're going, the more you can move, obviously, but also the faster you activate. So you're taking more risks to try to out-activate your opponents and stuff. It's Maximilian 1934. It is a lot of fun, actually. It's an Australian game. And this is by Eureka Miniatures, which is a company that we have looked at before. Bit of a nightmare model to build, if I'm honest. And it feels like this is going to be very fragile. As it is, while I was holding it, I've accidentally broken the glue on the rider, so I'm going to have to re-glue that now anyway. I also opened and built all of the heroes and the two main killers for the Don't Look Back that I got about a year and a half ago, because they've been sitting there untouched since I've got them, because I was using my old models, but I'm like, I want to build and buy the new ones now. So I opened up those and built them while I was sick. And I've also done I'm about 90% complete in all of my Malifaux stuff. I think there's 3 models that I haven't painted. So I've just smashed that out. But then, like I said, I've been sick for the last week and a half, so... And every time you see me turn away from camera, it's to cough.
Oh my god. Bruce. So just look at this. I don't know how, like, where you go, like, reality-wise for your, I almost said Dystopian Wars, Entropy City. But I just sent you a link in our host chat on Facebook.
Yeah.
You've got to design one of these for your game, Bruce.
I was just talking about these with a friend the other day.
The mono wheels?
I'm gonna bring this up on screen. Yeah, the mono wheel. So the mono wheel is, first and foremost, the mono wheel is a concept that doesn't work, but is arguably the coolest machine that doesn't work that's ever existed. I would say that these are cooler than mechs.
Oh, absolutely.
In the fact that these actually do exist, and you only have pretend mechs that exist. I love these things. They are so cool. The reason they don't work is because if you speed up too quickly or slow down too quickly, then you end up spinning inside of the wheel. That and you can't see where you're going, which is a bit of a problem when you're traveling at, I don't know, X miles.
That's why you lean out.
If you're sitting inside just a giant gyroscope and you slow down too quickly, you just fall over.
That too. These things are a death trap. But they're so cool. The one that I bought... I like the fact that this has... Oh, there it is, down the bottom. So, the one I bought is the White Lightning Tricycle, down the bottom. So that is this. It's really nice. It's a gorgeous looking mini, honestly.
Talk nerdy to me.
I thought let's have
my mold remover and I slowly remove the mold edge, very carefully to make it smooth. Then I take my glue and glue the 2 pieces together.
What George has just done is attempted to make doing hobby sound sexy. That's hilarious.
And it worked.
I'm going to glue those 2 pieces together so nice, so smooth.
Oh no, I got stuck to them.
Oh, God, that's disturbing. Okay, I thought let's have a terrain discussion. Like, generic terrain, right? We all have generic terrain. We have trees, we have buildings.
Hills, rivers.
A lot of people tend to recycle their terrain just for other games because... I mean, some people really like creating new, unique terrain for games. I mean, I've been doing that for Entropy City because I'm trying to create a world that doesn't exist. But, I mean, there's nothing to say that I couldn't just use Warhammer terrain. It's what a lot of people end up doing, is just recycling old Warhammer terrain for stuff. But from a generic point of view, I thought, I don't know, let's just talk about what your favourite types of terrain are and maybe the most frustrating types of terrain are. I was watching a video recently of somebody sharing how frustrating he finds hills. Not because they on the tabletop they look good.
Oh yeah.
But you either have a problem of, in order for it to break line of sight, then a huge part of it can't be used because you have steep scopes that you can't put minis on. Or it becomes stepped, which therefore doesn't look like a real hill. Or if you make an accurate hill, then it's like an accurate hill is the entire table, essentially.
It's like when we had Mel on that one night where, trees are always out of scale because if you have a tree to scale, it'd be like 3 feet tall.
Yeah.
So my favorite and most frustrating, it's the same piece of terrain. It's my favorite because it looks so good. It's so simple. You can get them anywhere and everywhere because they've been made forever. But they're my most frustrating type because it's the standard. Is the Future Gothic Warhammer 40k ruined terrain. Mm-hmm. I love the look of it. It looks great. It's frustrating because that's all everyone has.
And realistically, sorry, Socks.
This is one that I made.
Yep.
And I've made it so that it's great for my 10 mil games, but it's shallow enough on the sides that I can stack them and they don't fall down.
So it's not a realistic looking hill, but it's a good, useful hill.
Correct.
Sorry,
back to the Warhammer Gothic terrain buildings.
You hear it here, folks. Socks wants to talk about Warhammer terrain.
I'd rather talk about islands and stuff like that because...
No, I know.
Islands.
The thing I like about Ruins is Ruins are easy. Ruins kind of make sense in any game at all. To the point where if you have a very sci-fi looking building, but it's in ruins, I mean, most of them tend to be based on stuff that we have today anyway, so it's not a huge deal. But ruins kind of look like they can fit anywhere because if it's broken, then it kind of looks at whatever you want it to look like.
Yeah, well,
I mean, the Warhammer stuff is all specifically very gothic, so it's just like in real world, it's just this is just a very old building.
Which, in turn, I was going to say, like, you know, you can use that same piece of terrain in 40K or Sigmar or Old World or whatever. Hell, you know, scaled me off a little bit, but, you know, you can use parts and pieces of it in the Hobbit game, too, because there's ruins in that universe, too. And that's why it's my favorite, is because it's so universal. With the exception of a couple of games, and I'll just throw this one out, Wild West Exodus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it could work in that, but it doesn't because, let's be honest, what do you think of when you think of the Wild West? You think of all these amazing kits where it's like, oh, this looks so awesome. Great, what game are you going to use that for? What one or two games? Like, those are so, you know, niche designed that, you know, they look great, they look amazing, you know, the aesthetic is awesome, but you can't use them for hardly anything because... You know, are you going to have a attack squad of Space Marines go into the Wild West town and secure it? That doesn't fit.
I mean, the argument's always been that there's so many worlds in 40k that they could base their world. Not everything has to be Gothic, but speaking of unique pieces, like this is. I mean, I showed this off before. This is meant to be a piece of scatter terrain. It's meant to be a giant pile of lumber at a construction yard.
Yeah.
Like this was
I
really
remember you showing that off. Like,
but that you couldn't really use that in 40k. When you could, but it's not going to make a lot of sense. You'd have to stretch. It could work for Wild West Exodus. I mean, everything's made.
Do you know what I hate about that? Do you know what I hate about that the most, Bruce?
That it's
you don't have to paint it either.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
No, you don't have to. It's just you glue it together and you're done. Like,
yeah. One thing that I find a little, I like to have them on my dystopian boards and Victory at Sea and Black Seas and stuff like that. I mean, I already mentioned it, is islands, but it goes the same way. You want to have something that's large enough that's going to actually make it look like an actual island, but yeah, then you feel like you're overscaling the game too because you're putting too much terrain on the board and then you can't maneuver around it. And then it takes longer to actually play the game because then you're having to maneuver around this 2-foot island instead of a little rock that's that big.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
that's
islands can be tricky.
I was going to say that's like that one mission in Drop Fleet Commander where you got the big
moon
frickin' right in the middle.
The moon. Yeah.
It's always... Terrain can be a hard thing to balance sometimes. Like in a game of 40k, you need just enough to provide cover, but not too much because then you can't go anywhere. But then you have games like Infinity where, like, you can't set Infinity up with lines of like you have to have lines broken up everywhere. Otherwise, the game doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, it becomes too easy. Basically, like because you just like you need to have because every time you move out of terrain, somebody gets a shot at you. So. Or at least they should.
Well, you can't have anything more than 36 inches in Infinity, or someone who, you know, understands the meta.
You don't
is
even
just
want
gonna wipe you
36
up.
inches. It's only a 4x4 table.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you set up a board and you accidentally leave a line of sight like that, anything near that gets smoked. Like,
Yeah.
But then
Entropy City is probably... Sorry, go Sox.
But then you have the opposite. You have games that are 10 mil, like my my Civil War and my Hail Caesar games.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want a lot of terrain because you think about it. Those type of battles back then, they were fought on wide open expanses. Yeah, they had hills, they had maybe some trees here and there, but for the most part, it was wide open because they had to span out their entire army on this battlefield. And if they had a lot of terrain, then they couldn't issue commands effectively enough. So it goes both ways.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those lovely things where there's no right answer. But I thought it was an interesting discussion of like what our favorite types were and what. So I'm not really on the camp of finding hills frustrating. I don't mind if a hill doesn't look like it's a real hill. I don't mind that. I completely understand why people don't like it. But like,
I just remembered my most hated terrain.
Yep.
War of Hordes, right? Highly competitive.
Yeah.
The people who just put down the felt circle of this is a piece of terrain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Go get wrecked with yourself in that BS.
I completely understand why that started happening. Because it was that was something that started, I mean, it still happens now, but it was I travel for my games. I need to have and not everybody, I mean, I have a lot of trouble carrying around Entropy City because I have to carry around a table with me essentially as well, which on a motorbike is not possible. But I have an entire case full of table scenery. It's one of the reasons why I've been redoing that scenery. And I get that's where that comes from. I don't like those either because I like to have the visual representation of terrain.
Yeah,
but I get it. But especially in a game like that where it's meant to be true line of sight as well, it kind of breaks in a game like Malifaux where everything has rules that say this is this tall, this is that tall, like this miniature is size 1. Okay, well this terrain before the game, like you point out, okay, well that's only size 1, that's size 2, like fences are only kind of like half of the model high, and so you get that at the start. That doesn't work with 40k because it's meant to be real what represents the stuff, and therefore either you have to pretend that they're infinity tall, which they're not, or you have to. It doesn't work for those games. It works for certain games. It doesn't work for those. But again, I understand why they exist.
Yeah.
But to me, just like,
I mean,
in Drop Fleet, like putting down like your little asteroid sectors and stuff like that, like they're the cardboard. That's fine. It's a picture.
Yes.
And you're in orbit. There's lots of you can still shoot through it. It's fine. But to be playing like a skirmish game, and the best people can do is like, well, here's this color felt is this color felt is this, and blah blah blah. It's just like, dude, come on, really? You could
easily go down to your hobby store and buy a small pack of trees for $10 maybe.
Dude, not even that. You could go to like the snack aisle of a grocery store and get like boxes of goldfish crackers and cookies and stuff like that, and set that down, and you got freaking terrain. Best part is you got snacks.
You can eat it afterwards or during.
It's a hard. Because those sort of felt terrains and stuff like what you're discussing, or the neoprene ones is another good example. At least they look prettier. That comes across, in my head at least, that comes across from role-playing games, right? Because that used to be what you would do on a D&D table. Is, well, either you would draw it out, or hey, this is a tree,
Or a group of trees.
and that comes into templates. This is a template for some trees, so on and so forth. And I think that's where the idea. Somebody's had this smart idea of like, we could sell really cheap terrain and make a lot of money really easily. And there were people that bought into it, obviously, for a little while.
That's kind of what I like about some of these guys, where they've come up with the foldable terrain, where it's like the pop-up book stuff, where it's like you get off of a few panels and boom, you've got a table ready to go. Is it durable? Probably not. Is it cool and quick? Absolutely. Like there's a kit of it for Necrons. Oh my god, that thing looked amazing.
So I will sometimes do. I know the felt isn't always the greatest, but I'll use some for Dystopian Wars, and I'll use it generally for like shallow seas or a fog bank or something like that.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
If you're using a blue piece of felt of say this is a puddle of water.
Yeah.
It's a puddle of water. This is fog. Okay, this is fog. To use a red piece and say, this is immovable terrain that blocks line of sight. No, it's a piece of felt. That's red.
Because it breaks your immersion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One piece of terrain that I've found since starting to play Dystopian Wars and having my aerial units, and not a lot of people use them because it can be a pain sometimes, are clouds. I love the clouds that I built for that, because then I could give line of sight blocking for my aerial vehicles, whereas you can't really do that for island pieces of terrain because islands don't usually go that high, plus they're flying over them. And so being able to introduce clouds into the game, I loved it because I could then shimmy my aerial units around the clouds and get some kind of a line of sight blocking effect built into the game for them too. So plus you can have them move around if you decide to have that kind of a mechanic in the game where they're floating around the board and so they're mobile, which is what I started doing too.
How do you guys feel about mobile terrain? Like terrain that, like, very few rule sets actually allow for it. It tends to be more of a house rule type thing.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about terrain? Like, this is a cart, and over the period of the next 6 turns, this cart is going to move from here to here. Every turn it's going to move here, here, here. How do you feel about stuff like that generally?
Think about it. Drop Zone Commander had it with the monorail. There were some missions where the monorail had the objectives, and it would go across the monorail track during the game. So,
if I remember correctly, too, the Aether Drake for Fleet, I think, had some AI rules too.
From memory, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And as long as, and I do like that idea, as long as the AI is independent of both players, and it's just, it does this turn because of, how it's set up. Great little board game, Forbidden Desert. There's a storm that moves around based off what cards you draw. And like something like that where it's like, that can really just screw up a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I think like I don't think in like the Sigmar and 40K scale games, I don't think that's such a feasible thing. But in like your zones and your fleets where the scale's a bit different, you've got lack of better words, more room to play.
Yeah,
I think something like that is really cool. Like a game of Drop Fleet with a rogue asteroid flying across the board. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
I think if you was to do, let's just say, fantasy, for example. Like if you had a river in the middle of the table and you wanted to have a boat that was going down the river. If you were going to do that, you would have to set it like it must move X inches at the start of every turn. That way it's completely out of everybody's control. Like you just have a template where it's like, okay, it's going to move this, and that way, like, you can, in theory, try to prepare for where it's going to be at a certain point. But I don't know. It's just I really like the idea of it. I mean, Entropy City, in theory, could have that with cars and stuff. In theory, I haven't gone there yet because it doesn't really matter yet, and I don't really know if it really impacts the game as much.
I wouldn't, and here's my reason why.
If people are going to
You
do it,
already
they're going to
have
do it anyway.
Well, exactly, and you already have enough going on. Like, if you were to sit down and play, a game of Drop Fleet with me with your, inferior Scourge and my obviously superior Sheltari, you're already going to have enough to deal with me, shooting at you, constantly. You don't need something else flying around space to give you grief too.
You've just touched on something I was going to say and I forgot. Here's the thing with moving terrain. I always forget about it. I end up halfway through the game, it gets to a point of like, oh shit, we've not been moving it. And then at that point, it's always too late, and it's always like, oh, it hasn't moved for like 2 turns. Where's it supposed to be? And I can't be alone in that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then like in debate on this area, there's already a lot going on. Like, just prime example, playing Cthulhu Death May Die. Like, I spend most of my time playing that game managing the main dashboard.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is the god doing? What are we doing for the scenario? Like, what else? Forget the game going on over here. Like, you just need someone like running that while you're playing the game. It seems like.
Yep. I think for me, in the case of Entropy City, if there's going to be something like that, it would be like a mission-specific thing, and it would be probably a mission that I introduced as like something after the game's been out for a while. It's like, hey, here's a new mission. See what you think about this. As opposed to something in the rulebook where, if there was going to be anything in the rulebook, I think it would be if you wanted to try something, here's an idea that you could try. But otherwise, I don't see a reason of putting it in the rules specifically. I mean, I'm going to have enough, like you said, I'm going to have enough to deal with, and I already have to touch on some of this with the NPC stuff anyway. Like, if there's been a police officer that's invaded the I need to be careful that works enough, let alone introducing other stuff as well. So.
Yeah, here's a game, we already touched on a little bit. Imagine moving terrain in Infinity.
Oh yeah.
That would like that would almost make the game unplayable probably.
Probably. The only thing I can think of from an Infinity point of view is what you're fighting in the middle of a warehouse type scenario or a factory scenario where there's conveyor belts or something. That's probably the only thing in world that would make sense. But I agree with you. I don't think it would work. Anyway, like I said, I just thought it was an interesting discussion. Like, I was looking at terrain and I was like, we haven't talked about terrain for a little while, and so favorite. So for George it was ruins. Socks was hills.
I like
favorite
hills, but I would say the clouds that I've designed for Dystopian Wars. I'm starting to love those.
Yep.
Just because it's something different. It's not your generic ground type of terrain.
I want to say it's scatter terrain, but I can't because that's not generic. It's always very specific. Like, I put this out because, I mean, it was... George is right. This is so simple. But this is a generic piece of terrain that in theory could fit anywhere, but it's not. It's very specific. So, to me, scatter terrain is something... this is where you hide Easter eggs and stuff. Well, this doesn't have an Easter egg in it, but... Like, that is where you put your TARDIS from Doctor Who, or a little Space Marine helmet from a game that you really enjoy, or it's where you put something to see if anybody notices. So I think it's probably hills for me.
My
despite
favorite terrain has 2 thin coats.
What about most frustrating?
Most frustrating is period specific.
Yeah. Because you either have to scratch build it or pretend it's not wrong.
Well, take Bushido, right? If I buy terrain for Bushido, I'm going to use it for Bushido.
And not for anything else.
Maybe Infinity.
Yeah.
I've got the Wild West set up there. I don't even have Wild West Exodus. What else am I going to use it for?
Dead Man's Hand.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, once you do something very period specific, it's very hard to use it for anything else.
Yeah.
Prime example, TT Combat has got some great stuff for Carnival.
Mm-hmm.
What else are you going to use that for? I mean, where else are you having, Renaissance Italy terrain?
Yeah.
Like, it still looks great, but it serves a very specific singular purpose, and I think that's what frustrates me the most is when it serves that single purpose. Now, I'm going to exclude games like Drop Fleet because, like I said, you can get away with flat tokens on that because
it's an orbit game. It's the terrain's not the important part anyway.
Exactly. So, period specific. That's my most frustrating.
Did you say one socks?
I haven't yet.
Still thinking.
While they can be, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to formulate the thought. While they are useful in the game to break up linear avenues of the terrain, roads and rivers can be challenging because of all the small little segments that you have to try and make sure that they stay together while you're playing the game.
That end, there's always the issue of, well, if I'm going to have it as a piece of terrain, then it sticks up, and it's always going to stick up more than it should, and if it's a city, then the road is sticking up above the concrete, which doesn't make any sense. It should be the other way around. Gee, can you tell I've been doing this a lot recently? In the end, the decision I made was that I made slabs of concrete to go over everything else, and then everything else is the road. I haven't actually replaced the mat that because I had been playing on like a ruined cement type terrain.
But you know what I'm talking about, because I have some small little 100%. Road segments that are like this long, and then I've got the curved ones and stuff like that are both rivers and roads, and just trying to make sure that they stay together in line while I'm moving my Hail Caesar or my Gettysburg sets pieces around. Can be frustrating at times.
So,
or the table shifts and you're like everything just goes.
Yeah. For me, and this might be a controversial one, for me it's trees. I love trees. Don't get me wrong. I love trees. They never stay where they're supposed to unless you have like the template where but even then, like things will fall off and stuff. Like if you've got the old Warhammer ones where you can lift the tree in and out, they will keep it where it is to a large extent. But it's not. They never stay where they are. But for me, it's more of an issue of unless you want to spend a stupidly obscene amount of money, all of your trees look the same. That I find.
Yeah.
I know that you can scratch build them. I know that you can buy the armatures and you can scratch build them and you can kind of make them whatever you want with the foliage that you use. But it's so time consuming and the tree stays together for 5 minutes until it's all over the table. I've seen videos from people where they've done them and they don't fall apart. I get it, but in the real world, that's not what happens. Also, if you're traveling on a motorbike, that definitely isn't what happens. I love trees on the table, but they're such.
I'll agree with that because I built a tree for a display board for Adepticon, and we built it from scratch, and it was awesome. It was beautiful, and he went by train, and it survived.
Yeah,
there's flock everywhere. That flocking flock.
Yeah. I really love them, and because I love them is why I find it so frustrating. So in a real-world forest, it's not just... Because let's be fair, most people are either using the Warhammer trees, because despite how expensive they are, probably the nicest-looking ones that you can buy, or they're
nicest-looking ones.
Or they're using the cheap Christmas pine trees that look like bottle brushes, and B, unless you're in an actual forestry area, pine tree forests like that don't exist. It's always mixtures of different woods, naturally at least. Anyway, does it matter? No, I suppose not. But I would love you can buy
Games Workshop
rail
the second best because there's that one that we talked about a while ago that was like $250 for the kit.
Oh. I'm trying to think who that was. But yeah, anyway. But if you want to buy like the railway ones, like you can. You can certainly buy scaled trees in lots of different shapes and sizes, but they're not cheap. Like they're way more expensive than they should be in this hobby, but that's because they're for railway dioramas and stuff, and quite frankly, are not things that you want to use on a Warhammer table because they're not designed to be handled. They're designed to be left and not touched. So yeah, I mean, there you go. That's my frustrating one. 3D printing is always an option for this as well, but good 3D printed trees that don't look cartoony is a little hard as well. I don't mind terrain that looks a little cartoony, but it depends on the world that you're trying to build.
Sure, yeah.
I found some really cool ones where it's just the trunk and it looks like a dead tree, but then you've got like a cartoony thing that goes over the top of it and hides the top, so it looks like a tree, except it's very clearly a very cartoony one. But it looks nice.
Yeah.
Did you find what you were looking for, or are we giving up?
No, I didn't find it. It's fine.
Tournaments, demos, conventions, that kind of stuff.
There's a Drop Zone Demo Day taking place at Panda's Paradise. This is in Gulfport, Mississippi. As I was writing this
Gulfport.
Isn't that what I said?
You said Gulfport.
Gulfport. In my head, I was like MISSISSIPPI as I was writing this out. 22nd of June from noon till about 10 p.m. So it's the entire day. Drop Zone is an incredible game. If you've been tempted to try the game out, this is your chance. This is a new TT agent trying to build a new community. I would highly recommend going along if you're in the area.
Doc should show up.
It's about 3.5 hours away. I was just looking at it, actually.
You could totally drive that in the morning, like hang out all day, just get a hotel for the night and head back.
So on the 22nd of June, you've got time to organise it. Gen Con is coming out from the 31st of July until the 3rd of August. This is at the Indianapolis Convention Center in Indiana. We recently got announced that Weird is going to be there, though I don't think that surprises anybody. They're there every year. The Victorious 25 is taking place. This is an event being done by Nunawading Wargaming Association. This is their playtesting day, essentially, their games day. It's on the 16th of August from 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. at the Box Hill Town Hall. And PAX Australia is taking place from the 10th until the 12th of October at the Melbourne Convention and Entertainment Centre. Socks, why don't we have a chat with our about our lovely sponsor?
You mean Valhalla Hobby, which is awesome because they have just about everything that you can think of. And if they don't, they can help you out. So they have, like I said, they have everything for the most part. They've got your Warhammers. They've got your mainstream games, but they also have your niche. They have your Armor Clash, Dystopian Wars, Drop Fleet, Drop Zone Commander. I just ordered like I said earlier, I just ordered my Imperium Armor Clash from them. Hopefully it'll be shipping out here soon once it comes in because it's all new stuff. And with the code tabled, you can get 5% off your first order through them as well. First order over $100, I should say. So.
And George, discuss Patreon.
Patreon's a great place. It allows you to support us directly at $2 a month. For that $2, you get early access to all the videos that we produce and release. In the case of the podcast episode, you get to hang out with us live while we record, and we will talk to you and make fun of you while you're in the chat room listening to us talk. It's great, and $2 a month, and we can make fun of you. It's a super deal.
I haven't put Easter eggs in the background today, and JP didn't turn up to see them. I'm very disappointed.
Oh,
they're right here.
And you turn your lights on so you can see them, and it's not like some sort of like weird, creepy movie set.
Huh.
But after you go to patreon.com/gettingtable and become a Patreon for $2 a month, you can go check out gettingtable.com, which, that's where we list everything that we post to the audio version, the video version, just about anything we'll put up on that website. The other place you can go to find out where we're doing everything is facebook.com/gettingtable. That's where we will notify you of us posting various things. You can watch the video edition after it's released of anything on youtube.com/gettingtable. Please give us a like and subscribe. We are getting there, and we love you all for it. Thank you so much. Do you have anything you want us to talk about? A tournament, rules question, game question, or something for us to talk about? Email it to us at gettingtable@gmail.com. Then there's X/Twitter, Instagram, Blusky, Threads. Those are all at Getting Tabled. So if we post anything and you search that, you'll find us. Reddit, we are at r/Getting Tabled. And then Bruce still has his little side project of Toy Reel, which is youtube.com/toyreel. Go check it out. You can see Bruce play with toys like the child he is. And then, of course, his game, Entropy City, which is entropycitygame.com.
Yeah. We've actually been having quite a few live shows at Toy Reel lately. We did one recently with Clinton that was in the US, showing off what he'd bought while he was there. He was in LA. I don't remember. No, he was in California, sorry. Not LA. I don't remember exactly where. Somewhere near Compton. But it wasn't Compton.
Ew.
And yeah, Entropy City is coming along. Like, it's a basic website at this stage, but it's not everybody wants to keep an eye on Facebook, so it's a place where you can keep an eye on the game. I corrected a few more typing errors this week and fleshed out a few more things about the factions. There's the wording for Komodo specifically has been adjusted a little bit to make a little bit more sense, at least in my head anyway.
Why do we use that phrase, fleshed out? Did you sat down and you added more flesh to your website, Bruce?
Sure. I don't know where that comes from. In theory, it has to come from somewhere, right?
Right? It's just like, what a point were we adding flesh to things?
In theory, that's gotta come from something specific. Maybe it's from model building or something, or I don't know. Because phrases like that generally tend to be almost literal, but literal is a very disturbing thought in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's do this the right way this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For listening to Getting Tabled. Music used in this podcast was created by Eric Matthias at soundimage.org.
That kind of sounded like Soundwave. No, I didn't find it. It's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's not what I want to do.
Tournaments,